All right, welcome back to another episode of EventHubs Talking Block. I am John Carlos Gray, and with me as always is John Velociraptor Guerrero.
And now with us as of last night is Rashid in Street Fighter 6, and immediately, within hours, maybe minutes of his release, the community found that he has what I would call a game-breaking bug with one of his supers that essentially turns it into an infinite tornado that will chip away at you. If you're in burnout, you're done. If not, it's still ridiculous. And amongst other things. So a bad look for the game right now. So bad that it couldn't be talked about between just the two of us. We had to bring on Steven as well. What's up, Steven? How you doing?
Oh, hey, I'm also here. How's it going, guys?
I'm going to put that on a coffee mug. You say it enough times. I like it. Yeah, so guys, Rashid joined Street Fighter 6. Everybody is already worried about this character because of his legacy in Street Fighter 5. But we say, hey, Capcom, you've been doing pretty good lately. Pretty good. Let's see how you do with Rashid. Well, he's dropped, and it's not looking good. Steven, let me turn it over to you. How are your initial thoughts on Rashid?
Ooh, so before he released, I definitely put out some opinions of I basically couldn't see a way this character wouldn't be top tier based on kind of what we know about the game, about the current meta, and kind of what makes characters strong in this game. I saw Rashid and I'm like, there's no way this character isn't top tier. But then Capcom went above and beyond and released a legitimately broken character. So he's not just top tier, he's actually broken. And that's not an opinion. That isn't a, hey, I think he's broken because he's too good. No. He is legitimately broken. That level 2 super bug is ridiculous. So I think even outside of that, he looks really, really, really good. We're going to talk about that more here later, but yeah, that's my initial thoughts so far.
John, your initial thoughts about Rashid?
Unfinished and in a really bad way. And this character should not have been released like this right before EVO. It's ridiculous.
Want to get to that specifically, yeah, but I'm feeling about the same way. This initial huge problem with his Super 2 is definitely an issue that has to be fixed before EVO, or I don't think the character should be tournament legal at all, and I don't think anyone would expect him to be. But then even outside of that, some of the stuff that we're seeing with these like 4 or 5 jumps in the corner, bouncing off people's heads and such, I gotta see that for myself and experience it with some time before I can fully call that kind of stuff broken or like not fitting in with the rest of the game in the meta. But it does not look good as far as I can tell. And Steven, you've been looking into some of this stuff already, right? Like, and then like looking at the tech people are posting on Twitter and testing out some of it on your own. What are some of the things that we're seeing that are also kind of red flags at this point in terms of his gameplay?
Yeah, well, the big thing that people kind of were talking about before his release was like, hey, if you were going to regulate Rashid and not have him be too crazy, maybe you have his damage be a bit low. That doesn't seem to be the case. We're already seeing like over 7,000 damage combos in the corner. As we feared, he has some pretty intense like Oki situations and setups and things in the corner, like corner pressure. He's got mobility for days. He's got side switches. He's got a run. He's got DI cancelable normals, like all up and down. Like the majority of his main normals are DI cancelable. He's got a DI cancelable target combo as well that leads into a juggle combo. And if you react to a drive impact, he can counter drive impact. There's a lot of things about this character.
The way they talked about his light spinning mixer in the character like showcase model was that something along the lines of it, and this is in the game too, that it's relatively safe on block, and it's one of those forward moving, horizontal moving attacks that if he hits you, great, and if not, he's in a safe situation and sometimes spaced far enough because of the hitbox of it that if you try to take your turn, it's a problem. That was one of the things I hated the most in Street Fighter 5. This was one of the characters that took advantage of that kind of a thing a ton, and it's like they programmed it into the game. So again, I'm not passing judgment fully yet, but hot damn. John, sounds like you were going to say something.
Just on that note, actually, his light spinning mixer is very fast. It hits 3 times, so you can't drive impact him up close. It's -3 on block, which means he can also go into his EXDP right afterwards, which is something everyone loved in Street Fighter 5, having to block Rashid's spinning mixer and immediately having him go into an EXDP right afterwards for the mix-up. And it's like, what were you thinking? Like seriously, you put all this stuff, you give him this, and then one of the things that really pisses me off about this character is his drive rush is very deceptive. Drive rush is already a problem in this game, and this guy's movement is so weird and so awkward, and not only does he make the audio bug out when he does drive rush, he also, it's really hard to react to that in neutral, and I'm watching a bunch of pro players just kind of be like caught flat-footed as he rushes in and just destroys you with everything. It's terrible.
Capcom has said that they are patching, or they're looking into it. They said they're looking into it. We assume they're going to be patching things, but I want to focus in on Capcom, unless you guys had anything else you wanted to say about the specifics of his gameplay.
I will just say it's very early with his gameplay, and it is possible that we lab a ton of counters here. And just it's really hard. I mentioned this a few times. It's really hard to decouple all the crazy stuff that you can do that is definitely going to get fixed. The SA2 stuff is Capcom already said they're looking into it. It's hard to decouple that from everything else that he can do as well. And so it might be that we're hitting some extreme opinions here with the character because of just how broken he is right out of the gate. And we're having a tough time contextualizing that. I will throw that out there because it's like, we're just a few hours into his release here, so you never know. So I'll throw that out there, but right on the surface, oh boy, this does not look good.
Okay, so I'm seeing two Capcoms at this point, because we had the Capcom, led by Ono back in Street Fighter V, and they really fell out of favor with a ton of the fan base for some pretty obvious and egregious reasons. Then it seems like Nakayama and Matsumoto come in and kind of lead this new charge and change their approaches with everything, and Street Fighter V's ending is pretty dang good. Street Fighter 6 has all of this stuff, and they've paid attention to so many different aspects of the game, and you think there's a problem here, but then a solution emerges with just a little bit of time, and every layer they've been attending to. So I'm like, okay, I have a little faith in you guys to produce Rashid, even though he was definitely an issue in Street Fighter V and clearly a difficult to balance type of character. I think you guys are going to be thoughtful enough and handle this appropriately, especially because he's coming in some like 10 days, less than 2 weeks before EVO, and he will be at EVO, legal there. Okay, so then he drops, and not only does he seem kind of overpowered in just his natural abilities, but then this very quickly discovered and seemingly easy to do, in fact, I've done it myself, it is pretty easy to do, bug appears, and I go, have you been testing this character? I'm sure they have, but it doesn't feel like you have. And I go, this is not the Capcom that I have been used to in recent times. Are we slipping back into an age of Street Fighter V Capcom? John, how are you feeling about this?
There's a story we have of going to Capcom Cup, and John Velociraptor here was on the Rashid, like, oh my gosh, what is going on with this character? And so right as we're going out, like top 8 at Capcom Cup a handful of years back, some gentleman walks out there and he's all, freaking Rashid. He used a different word, but he said freaking Rashid. I can't believe this, and other stuff. And it's like, when you look at the history of this character, when you look at how much this guy has gotten away with and all the privilege and all the other kind of stuff that we talked about, I really don't understand how he could be released in this state. Like, this is an unfinished character, if you ask me, and Capcom should not have released him how he did. That is how this strikes me, and I have really heavily advocated for DLC characters being strong out of the gate. I don't disagree with that even now. I still think that it's important that if you have a character that's being added later to the game, you have all this corporate knowledge everyone else has built up, you have to make them solid, or make them at least, palatable. But what I also warned against was making something like, the alien character from Mortal Kombat X or whatever, where they come into the game, or Tanya and stuff, where they are just so broken out of the gate that everyone's playing them, and it's kind of like, it's like the year we saw Yun and AE had a bet going, yeah, and I think I said it was like 5 Yuns or 4 Yuns are going to be in top 8. I won the bet, kind of thing, because it was just disgusting, and this is really what it's reminding me of right now.
Steven, how do you feel about this? What kind of Capcom are we dealing with?
Yeah, well, it's funny you mentioned the two Capcoms thing, because I kind of feel like it is a little bit of a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde situation, right? You look at these decisions that they've been making, and, leading up to the launch of Street Fighter 6, there was a lot, and I mean a lot of messaging about, we understand the mistakes we made with Street Fighter V. We know people were not happy with this. We are doing everything in our power to make sure we don't repeat these mistakes, and we're getting about as far away from Street Fighter V as possible, because we know you guys are sick of it. You want a new game, you want better product. Read you loud and clear. But then we get into Street Fighter 6 after launch. We get to the post-launch content. the first character, not even like just in the first season, but literally the first character is probably the most problematic character from Street Fighter V. At least one of them. He might be number one. And you go, okay, you guys wanted to get away from Street Fighter V, but you're literally introducing this character who has a wild playstyle, who is incredibly difficult to balance into the Street Fighter VI ecosystem when it's month one, like maybe month two, I guess now, technically. We're barely figuring out the meta, and here you throw in this absolute meta cracker. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me, right? But it's also interesting, too, because Capcom just recently mentioned that their plan for balance changes is to only release one major balance patch once a year. And this was in response to the tournament season. They don't want to mess anything up for the tournament season and introduce anything that's too crazy because it could, it could affect the players and it can turn things on its head, right? And then you go, oh, well, now you're going to release Rashid 10 days before the biggest international fighting game tournament of the year. So was it Dr. Hyde that just decided, oh, hey, let's push Rashid out because people definitely need him before EVO? And the interesting thing about it is like...
No. I know what happened. Ono came back and put all this messaging out there. It was Ono's fault. Let's blame Ono because clearly Ono's never done anything good for fighting games. So...
Yeah, it's just funny to me because you look at this situation and generally speaking, in most cases, people are pretty upset if you delay a DLC character or, any time that you push a DLC character's release further, people are usually upset. I think the only instance where it's okay is before a major tournament. This would have been a chance for them to go, hey, you know what? We realize what Rashid's going to do. Or even if they release him, he's not legal, right? Mm-hmm. But they said, nope, Rashid is not only available before EVO, but he is tournament legal because that's always been the rule. Good luck, everybody. We hope that you enjoy the level 2 glitch, bug, super. Good luck, everyone. We know you've been training hard. We don't care. Here's Rashid.
It's a dropping of the ball on so many levels because it not only is... Rashid is overpowered and everybody was already worried about it and you like blatantly fell flat on your face at the start of as soon as the gun goes off. But then also you did so right before EVO and the character's going to be legal for it. So it's like either EVO has to ban Rashid if they don't get this changed effectively. But even then we're still worried about the character in general. And what kind of look will it be if you release a character less than 2 weeks before EVO and that character wins or that character is prominent at the top? Like, is that a good look in any case that you're that good that quickly with the character that you can take him to the end of EVO when there's over 7,000 competitors? Come on, like, this is not a good move. This is like the Mr. Hyde. It really does feel that version of Capcom just suddenly reared its head again, and I don't like it. And then I think, when I'm going in to practice with Rashid and start exploring him myself, I'm forking over another $30 to buy a character pass, guys. I'm paying more money on top of the original price to make my game worse. And I know that is not a completely fair and all-encompassing statement, but that's what my reaction and my emotions feel like right now. I'm buying my game.
Character. This is the first character out of the gate that we all paid for. We just got done paying $60 for this game. And now they're turning around and saying, hey, give us another 30. It's like, okay, we know how this works and stuff like that. And this is the first impression. This is the first character you release. You could have picked from a whole plethora of characters out there. Give us someone like Dudley. Give us someone else and whatnot. Not wash the bad taste of Street Fighter V out of our mouth. Don't give us Rashid and Ed. And I love Akuma, but like Akuma's also one of those characters who's a really...
Well, now... Yeah. I'm terrified of that character.
Yeah,
it's just this was not thought through well enough, and Capcom's going to pay the price for this right now. They're doing it right now. There's a story about in Street Fighter 2 where they discovered guiles like Magic Throw and other stuff like that, and the programmers the programmer was so upset about it he wanted to quit. He wanted to just like not come into the work anymore because he's like this is just such a buggy thing. I don't think anything that drastic needs to happen. I know Capcom has very, very, very talented people there. What pisses me off about this is just like the lack of foresight on this of how this could potentially turn out with this character. And it's like why? There's so many questions of why did you do this way? Why not right after EVO? Why not delay him? Just right there. You would have plenty of time. EVO is the biggest fighting game tournament on the planet. What are you doing?
Yeah, and it's just interesting because it's like the risk involved with not just releasing any DLC character before a major event like this. Like the risk involved is so skewed negatively, right? In the negative direction. And on top of that, it's Rashid. Like, was Capcom that confident in their abilities that they were going to release this character? He was going to have no issues. He was going to be totally fine. And we were all just going to have a nice dandy Evo, and everything's going to be great. Like, come on, man. Like, you have to look at this stuff and go, okay, maybe that's too much of a risk. If we're going to release him now, he's not tournament legal until after Evo, right? That's the easy solution. If they had to get him out now, they could have also delayed him to after Evo, and I don't think too many people would have been upset. But here we are, day one, hours after he's released, massive game-breaking bug. That's kind of what you get, Capcom. I mean, what were you thinking?
It almost feels like if I get on to play ranked right now, if I run into a Rashid, it's like, am I still playing this? I don't want to engage with this game when that bug that's so easily implementable is in the game. What is this? It's like, it's really shaking your game right now. And I got to wonder, like, John, we were talking about this a little bit. I do want to bring it up. Is the honeymoon phase of Street Fighter 6 over with a move like this? Is everybody all of a sudden going to be like, I don't know about this game all of a sudden. It's not my favorite all of a sudden anymore. But John, how do you feel about that?
It depends on how quickly they can get this addressed. I think the option select bug that they found the other day, that took them like 2 or 3 days to get it to addressed. But it depends. Maybe they can't get this done until after Evo. That is going to be a huge black eye on the community. And I would see the Evo organizers at that point banning Rashid or banning the use of the glitch at that point if they're not able to patch it out before then. If they can get this in hand quickly and they address it, and Rashid ends up being a really big menace. Like, he's the problem that we think he is. Because like I said, I do think it's hard to decouple the bugs right now from the character. It's just they're all in one package right now. It's too hard to like see him as anything else. If he's not as bad as we think he is, then I think we're okay. But if he is as bad as we think he is and they don't address it for another year, what are we doing? We've lived through this stuff with 5. We lived through this for a long time with 5. You said the lessons were learned. The lessons were clearly not learned. And I think there's some cash that you guys got that is very heavily influencing your decision. And I think that cash right now is making Rashid potentially top tier. And we'll say, okay, that's fine. We saw this before, so I guess we're going to see it again.
Well, guys, I wish we had better news to report right now. And, maybe Capcom does turn this into a turnaround that makes them look good and say, hey, we're still human. We can make mistakes, but we can also fix those mistakes. So I don't think all is lost. But this is my least favorite day of Street Fighter 6 thus far, and I'm definitely rooting for the game. I've been having a lot of fun with it thus far. But I start to see this kind of a thing happen, and it's been just a few years ago, we got a bunch of crap from SF5 in the way that the DLC flowed out and the in-game experience and whatnot. I mean, we got a patch where no one's talking about the patch and how the game is a little bit better. All of a sudden, little things are fixed around, and they've changed the way that like parry works when you're in block stun
and then they broke replays, and a bunch of other stuff doesn't work how it should anymore.
Change some of my settings and training mode.
All your replays are gone. Thanks for the warning about that, Capcom. They're like, oh yeah, we're just going to roll this out. It's like, what? It's like too much of this crap. Yeah. So this was not communicated in advance. They really needed to get out in front of this one, but they didn't.
So I don't know if the honeymoon period is over, but we're definitely starting to fart in front of each other now, and it's some pretty turbulent winds, if you will.
Yeah, I don't think the honeymoon phase is fully over, or at least I guess I'm not looking at it like that. I guess I am looking at this situation as more of like the old ways of Capcom are starting to kind of rear their ugly head, and that's giving me it's shaking my foundation and my trust in this game. And I go, oh boy, please don't go the route of old Capcom and mess all of this up. You've got a great thing going already. The foundation of Street Fighter 6 has been amazing. There are issues with it, but overall, I think people have agreed this is a pretty great vanilla version of a Street Fighter game. It's hard to nail those. I don't know if they nailed it, but they did a pretty solid job with it. And now you kind of see some of these decisions, and you go, oh man, please don't go this route. Like Rashid, we could turn around, and Rashid could be completely okay. If we have some time with him, and we realize there's a lot of counters and maybe some of this stuff doesn't work the way that it looks like it works. And oftentimes, I will say that. Oftentimes, that is the case. We find counters. We realize that some of these block strings aren't as good as they look initially or whatever. So that stuff could regulate over time. But I hope it does. And I hope they get this bug fixed right away, because this is the start and the makings of a very bad road to go down. And that scares me.
Yeah. Well, we'd like to hear what you guys think about Rashid, about Capcom, and about the relationship that Capcom has with the Street Fighter community right now. How do you think EVO is going to go down? There is so much that this could affect, that this could cause, that this could... fingers crossed for the best, but let us know how you're feeling about all of this in the comments. And if you're going to go win EVO as Rashid using the Super 2 bug, good for you. Guys, any closing thoughts?
I just love that Steven was giving Capcom a lot of praise and other stuff, and he's a Lily main, and they just nerfed Lily. So that's how much goodwill Capcom had built up at launch, and how much just went out the window with Rashid's turbulent wins. So.
Yeah, I'm used to it, man. I'm used to it by now. my characters are rarely good, and then we get big patches, or we get patches. This isn't even a big balance patch, by the way. They just decided, we're gonna take this. It was a jump back OD Condor dive from Lily. They're like, nah, she doesn't need that. But Rashid, we took that away, but we gave Rashid 5 jumps because good luck everybody. So yeah.
That's like my least favorite thing that characters have is like weird midair shenanigans, and he's just like that. They started with that, and then they added a Super 2, and they branched it out from there. It's like, God.
Yeah, well, see how it goes.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.